we'll loop back to him. Like alphabetically, I'm up next. So the
Nice.
end
Ooh.
of the journey, the Panther has been finished finally.
Wow. Nice.
Nice.
Following along since I guess December or so was when I first started showing pictures of it. So, yeah, did the finishing touches this month.
Excellent.
This is the Trumpeter kit. Now, the canopy is not attached. It's not crooked. I can move that still. It's the Trumpeter kit. Went together really cleanly. Yeah, really happy with it. It was a really fun build. It was all about trying to. I've never done a blue plane before, so trying to.
You got some nice modulation going on there, Eric.
I'm happy with it. It shows up better in person, of course. I've said that every time, but it does show up better in person. But I'm happy with how it turned out. Yeah, it's got some interest at least. It's not.
What was? Do you mind me asking? Was that pre-modulation or post?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Everything. Yeah.
A or B. Yes.
I did some before. I was kind of reverse modulated it at first. I did actually some white highlights and then came over top with the base color and then started to add shades of that base color then on top of it. So
Nice.
Looks good. That looks really nice.
Of course.
So what kit is it, Eric? Sorry, and what scale again? Is that that's 48th, isn't it?
Of course, 48th for me, and it's a Trumpeter kit.
Right. Okay.
All markings are masked and painted, so that was fun. Cockpit is
Whoa.
Ooh.
Nice.
Edward photo.
Photo etch. Wow.
Interest. And yeah, just generally speaking.
Oh man, that's gorgeous.
Like I said, that's the best view. That's the best view of it right there from the kind of the rear three-quarter view. I like it.
So did you say Eric is out of box?
Except for that photo etch, yeah.
I'll be ready for Heritage Con 2022.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've got a stack of finished models now. Right?
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah, I think, guys, there's a competition in Wuhan next month if you guys want to.
No.
Yeah, we're right on that.
David, you back? You want to do run through yours?
No, the next contest is in
There
Texas.
we go. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Basically, I finally finished this over-engineered freaking mini art Dingo Mk2. This is my first foray back into a 35th scale from 72nd. So I thought, oh, I'll just do something simple like an armored car. Yeah, well, I should have known better. I didn't read any of the reviews on the kit, and I started the kit in 2018, and it was like it took me this long to kind of drag myself through it. But I did eventually come to enjoy it. It's not great, but it's okay. I think it allowed me to practice some things in a larger scale that I normally don't get a chance to do. Things like I did try using some filters on it. I did try using a little bit more of a subtle type of weathering. I tried using some oils. I tried using a little bit more, not the washes, some of the pigments and how they were applied and stuff like that. So it was, at the end of the day, it was okay. I don't know. I don't know if I would say, I definitely wouldn't recommend the kit, but it does offer a lot of chances to open up stuff, as you can see. Like, I mean, pop open every single window if you want, right? Sort of thing. And
nice.
You know, and the interior was pretty neat because I thought I wanted to keep the hood open as well. So the interior was, I opened up the interior and all this stuff it's all out of the box. So there's photo etch in it. There's like all sorts of other crazy stuff. Like the thing that annoyed me was how over-engineered it was. So that's the really thing that really was frustrating, was because like each wheel, the suspension for each wheel was like 10 or 12 different parts, right? And that's, yeah. So it's, and then there's photo etch, and it's very, even in 35th scale, it's fiddly, right? So I don't know. I mean, but it turned out okay. Right, I tried to do it. I tried to do it in the guise of one of the Dingos that was used in Dieppe, but this is the pre-going over to Dieppe, obviously, right? So I think if I did it again, I would probably opt to see what the 48 scale Tamiya Dingo was like, because it's probably going to be better than, you know, than the way this thing was. Yeah, a lot simpler. It was annoying. This really got annoying, and it was also interesting because I used the print scale. Print scale has a bunch of DF Dingos on a decal sheet, right? And I noticed there was some of them that didn't have numbers, right? But I've got, you know, you do your reference photos, you're checking things out, and I noticed that some of them were like, well, wait a second, this has got, you know, it's got their serial numbers all over the place, and it's got, you know, according to the kit had the you know, the antifreeze warning on the front of the armored car, and I was like, I wonder if those things actually had it there, right? So I was asking around, and I asked it in the Canadian Military Modelers group on Facebook, and Anthony Seward came back and said, no, they all should have and would have had their serial numbers there, even if they weren't photographed with it. So it's interesting because the print scale sheet didn't really have all of them. They had some of them because that's all they could verify, right? But I was able to get this particular number because the numbers didn't exist in the didn't exist on the actual sheet, but the decal sheet gave you enough single numbers that you could create whichever serial number you needed, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Assume, guys, with print scale, I found with the model I'm going to show tonight, I had exactly the same problem, David. It was missing some numbers, and I'm doing a Key 61 Tony. So just watch your references. They don't always include them, and not just for yours, but for mine too. It's an aircraft.
yeah, but I'm happy that I've completed this, and like, I know we talked about this before. I mean, Sugan, I remember you mentioning it. It's just like, just get it done, right? Just finish it, and then you can say, okay, you know. And I did learn a lot of stuff out of this. I've also been reviewing online videos from what's the fellow's name? Everybody likes watching him. Martin Kovacs, Mr. Night Shift, right?
Night Shift.
Yeah, right. And I do get a kick out of his commentary, right? So I've been watching his
hilarious.
videos, and it's been interesting to watch him and how he plays with things. And I know that Rinaldi's big thing is the oil paint rendering and that, right? And I saw recently as in, like, I just watched it this weekend, was Kovacs, you know, whether he liked washes versus oil paints. And the more I played with the oil paint on this, the more I thought, you know what, I might just stick with just using oil paints for like weathering and stuff like that, because it did seem to give me more control than just a general wash. The filters is a different situation. I'm still going to use like a pre-made filter and that type of stuff, and I'm still learning about that too, because I went ahead and I just, you know, I did what I would normally do. Oh, apply a coat of Future and blah blah blah, and then I realized, why isn't the filter working? You know, then I realized, oh, you know,
It really all depends on what you're thinning it with and the sort of finish that you're applying it to. Those are the biggest things. Other than that, stick with oils.
Yeah, I had just left it as a gloss finish, and then I knew I would dull it down afterwards. And then I realized, oh no, I really should be using filters on a flat finish.
That's right. The filter becomes a wash if you put it on a gloss finish.
Yeah, exactly.
Quickly before we move on, this is the you guys can't see this. Let me see if I can get some light on it. This is the gun. I don't know if you guys can see, right? But the actual part that was cut was on the underneath of the stock, right? And it was cut with, of course, with these puppies here, right?
Okay.
So those are the Spade Cutters, and like Vince said, it's a single-sided that's got the blade, and they're about the same size as the Tamiya ones, but they just seem to be more delicate, right? How they'll hold up over time, right?
Yeah, you have to be very careful actually with side cutters like that. The blade is specifically made to be very thin so that it cuts very cleanly. So, for example, you shouldn't cut clear plastic with it, or clear sprues, because they might actually crack the blade.
That's a good point.
This is there's I'll actually send. There's a God Hand how-to manual of sort of do's and don'ts, and there's a lot of don'ts. Basically, these things are designed for the very last cut. Like I don't even use them to cut the initial sprue cut.
Nah,
That's what I have the sort of
that's a good
beefier
point.
wave ones for. And I started out with the red-handled God Hands, which are a little thicker and a little stronger. Used them for about 1.5 years, and then had an opportunity to buy the blue handle ones cheap for only, quote unquote, only $70 at a show. Because well, they go for up to $120. Most of the time, you can find them for around $80 still. And there is a difference. I really enjoy it, and they make life easy. Though the God Hands are designed specifically so that the blade is not flush with the anvil. It's got about like say a 1/10 of a millimeter off, and I don't know. But basically, if this is the anvil, the blade doesn't go straight at the bottom. It goes a little bit off, and the whole point is that what you're trying to prevent, because as Vince said, it's primarily for people who don't want to paint on the plastic. If you cut right at the plastic, you might discolor it. There might be some of that, like a pressure mark. Yeah, especially with darker plastics, you can get that white sort of hazing.
Yeah.
So these things are specifically designed to sort of cut a little above. So I don't know if the display ones are flush or not. But sometimes it's a real pain in the ass because on a flat piece of plastic, you could get it to a point where it will actually cut perfectly flush. But because of that step off, you can't do it. Though you are able, if you have an edge, if the sprue is on or the gate is on an edge, you put the anvil and slide it down so that the blade is on the edge of that or on the surface, and then you get a flush cut. But,
hey, Matt, why don't you send some of the links to the chat here that these people got them?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, that'd be great.
I can
If
try
you
to
find them.
figure out how to do that because I'm on my iPad.
Or later. Don't worry about it. That's very useful advice.
Yeah. I'll how about I sort of reply to David's email with all this stuff. Yeah, because I can't do anything on my iPad really.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Eric. I know that you're going to go on here, but David Blappy there wants to talk to show something as well. Once we're through the initial folks here.
Okay, sure. Yeah, no, like Harvey suggested, when we're once we're done with people who've sent me stuff, we can open it up to people can share their screen directly. I think you've set it up like that this time, right? So
yeah,
cool. Yeah, up next is Esteban. It sent me a bunch of pictures of the Millennium Falcon. So take it away, Esteban.
Woohoo. Hey guys.
Nice.
From a galaxy far, far away, Boba Fett taking over.
Very nice.
So this is the 1:144 scale Bandai Falcon. I used for the engine grills. I used the green strawberry.
Yeah.
Photo etch it's awesome. The only thing with this is you have to be very careful how you install it because the actual grills, there's like 4 sections of it. It's not like on the 72nd scale where it's just one photo etch. This has 4 sets for each one. So you have to be very careful to align it properly, or else if you see on the next photo, you could probably see that like some of them are not aligned. Yeah, so you have to be very the first one's fine, but then the second one, the third one, the fourth one is fine. Yeah, you have to be very careful, but it's awesome. It just fits perfectly right inside. So what I did is I gave it a matte black, the entire model. I used the Tamiya spray can all over on the sides, everywhere. I masked off the gunner's bay windows, and then I used for the actual paint scheme. I used deck tan and flat white Tamiya. And that was thanks to Harvey Lowe's video. Thanks a lot.
Awesome.
I think it was 1-to-4 ratio, 1 deck tan, and 4 or 3 whites.
Well, you know what? I got to give kudos to Alex because Alex gave me that formula.
Okay, yeah. There's a dilemma on like the actual color, right? To like replicate it is like, I think it's like it's impossible. But anyways, it's just an idea. And with very low pressure, I was able to go just around the panels just to keep like dirty panel lines around it.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to replicate battle damage.
That looks great.
On the front there, on the side of where the radar was. I don't know if probably the next photo you can see it better. Yeah, there it is. So for that, I used a metal sanding tool, the edge, and just scraped it. Yeah, and just scraped it out.
Nice, beautiful.
Yeah, it's very for the decals. I didn't use the kit decals. There's a manufacturer that's called Cosmos. I don't know if anybody seen it. I got it on eBay. It's awesome because they're very thin. And it goes on perfectly, and you can use practically any setting solution on it, and it won't destroy it at all. And it just goes on perfectly on the surface. And it already comes with the paint chipping. So it's just perfect. Yeah, that's straightforward. That's the undersurface.
Nice.
Which kit was that? Which version of the Falcon?
That's the Rise of Skywalker. Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone ever wants to get the exact right colors for all the Star Wars builds, there's a guy in England who used to work on the actual models and basically started a paint line with according to him, the appropriate colors. Though they come in fairly large bottles and they're not cheap. Lacquers, and they are not cheap. Of course, I sort of I have a link somewhere, so I'll add it to my email because it's just neat. He has a pretty cool. Like
the company is called Archive X.
There you go. That's it.
And they do paint sets for all the. You can get a paint set for the Slave One, the Millennium Falcon, but like you said, they're very expensive. Like a set for the Slave One is like it's like 140 pounds or 100.
Ouch!
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Not cheap.
What?
And I think they're enamels. I was gonna buy some, and then I realized they're enamels, and I'm not a fan of enamels at all. So I decided not to waste my money.
Yeah, I'll just make my own paints.
Let's just go to Crappy Tire.
So I actually, I don't know if someone knows how to, I actually wanted to create interior lighting for this kit, but I just didn't know how to. So I just got myself the 72nd kit, and there's more space for, I think that, well, the kit actually brings the LED lighting, but it's horrible. It's just terrible. It's just not enough lighting. So if anybody knows how to, from scratch, how to, like with a battery box and connectors or stuff like that to,
literally the simplest thing, because wiring it all yourself, it can be a pain in the ass. There's a place in the States called Evans Design, and they primarily cater to model railroad, but they for like, I think it's $3 US or so, you can choose what color LED you want, how long the wire leads you need. Then for another $3, I think you get a battery box and a switch. They wire it all up for you. You can actually have to get multiple LEDs wired up.
Yeah.
It's pretty cheap. You also can actually, one of the best things about them is you can buy additional batteries, and you can use 9-volt or 3-volt. I use usually the 3-volt coins. And it's the cheapest place to get batteries in the world, at least up until recently. Maybe but they're cheap again on Amazon. But basically, for $1 US each, you can get one of those coin batteries. But basically, look up Evans Designs. Like all the Gundam guys, that's what they use. And
oh, Glenn sent the link.
Yeah. It's basically the cheapest and simplest way to do it. There is a guy in Montreal that resells them, but unfortunately he gets them at retail from Evans Designs and then marks it up. So there's just no point.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Has anybody has used the Shapeways 3D printing parts for like any of the Star Wars stuff?
I haven't, Esteban, but I have gotten and used those parts for ship models.
Okay.
Yeah, I've gotten a bunch of Falcon stuff from, I think it's called 308 Bits. And his name is Anthony, and he does phenomenal stuff. He does a lot of Star Wars, especially for the Falcon, in different scales. I have a bunch of the stuff. I just haven't used them yet.
So what I'm looking for is the actual corridor that's connected to the cockpit, because you could once you close it up, you can see it. Once it's lighted up, it's really cool. Yeah. But the one from Shapeways is like $120.
Yeah.
And it's like this small. That doesn't make any sense. Anyway.
How much work he puts into it.
Yeah, I guess.
It's the design versus the actual.
That's what they say
material,
anyways.
Right?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Let's see. Next up, we have Gates, and I don't think he's with us tonight. So just from the email he sent me, this is another one of his creations that he sent over to Anthony, who did the presentation last week, to have this designed. I guess Anthony did the design of it and then 3D printed it in all the pieces. And then, of course, Gates painted it up.
Whoa.
Wow.
Did you guys hear the price of what it cost to do that?
No, we did. Jonathan, I didn't read what I don't think Gates sent the price across.
Well, he did. It was $2,000.
Glenn, what do you got there?
Some pictures here.
I sent two links. This is just a simple trick that I used to cure a tail dragger. That synchrocopter that I had built. I didn't know it's a very, very, very tail heavy. Like there's no weight that you can add to the front. So to prop it up for photos, I cut apart a thin strip of a blister pack.
Oh,
clever.
And I had it in heights, and I was posing it against a flat back background or clear, and it's if you cut it wide enough, it supports its shape rather well, and that's about half an inch high, and it works very well.
That's pretty innovative.
Yeah,
that's slick.
Necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Especially for us modelers.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're not falling asleep. David, the best line of that is a Russian proverb, and it roughly translates, "Poor people are crafty."
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Given the prices I've heard tonight for all those cutters, man, my wife wants to resize her wedding ring. I'm going to tell her not to. Cutters. All right, next up.
There's a cutter for that.
Keep going.
Yeah, I finished off the synchrocopter that I was showing in progress last time.
Nice.
Finished it up on Sunday evening, and it's done. Damn, this was a trial of patience. It's a very interesting fit. The engineering that went into this thing is just bloody marvelous.
Holy crap.
It's very finicky to put together. Very, very, very finicky. And I was displaying it without the body panels on, so I went kind of to town on the engine bay. And, added some stuff. I made half of this shit up,
You're not supposed to tell us that when we judge it, Glenn. No, that's fabulous. That's fabulous. That's really.
What did Shep Payne call it? Gizmology.
Gizmology. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fabulous.
Exactly. So at the end, I decided to pose it with not a lot of body panels on it, so you could see more of the inside. I left the rotor blades off because, according to an old World War II movie that I watched, it was assembled right before it took flight, and they would insert the rotor blades and slide them in, pin them, and then do that for all four. So I thought, I'm going to do one blade, and I'm going to make this little wooden storage box. It kind of looks like what I saw in the film.
Did these fly off, Glenn? Did these fly off U-boats by chance?
There's one that did, but mostly they were on anti-submarine warfare ships.
What movie? What movie were you watching?
It was well, the fellow who made his own 1/18th scale.
Oh, that
Shapeways
Fletner guy.
3D
Yeah.
printed one. I forget what his name is, but I got in touch with him via Shapeways, and he shared a whole bunch of lists of documents and a couple of links to videos of this thing being flown, how it was assembled, how it was prepped, how it came in, how it was landed, and so on. It was just absolutely fascinating.
Do share, please.
Sure, if I find the links, I'll have to go back to the conversations. But yeah, it's very interesting how this thing works.
I think that guy 3D designed and printed that. I think it was a Fletner gyrocopter or something like that.
Yeah, it was this one that he made, designed it all in 1/18th scale.
Yeah, and then I believe there was a debate ensued as to does it count as scratch built?
Don't know.
Which is its own. That's its own argument and discussion.
But I think it's a large scale aircraft. He has a forum link in there, and it's a couple of pages, and it has tons and tons of historical information, the whole history of this thing. Unfortunately, when I looked at his design for the 3D printed thing, the engine itself was just pure vaporware. It didn't even, it had the basic shape of a radial engine, but that's where the similarity ended. There's exhaust pipes everywhere and hoses that went nowhere and everything. But he was kind enough to share a lot of information, including the film of this thing in operation. So it's finally together. And it's just about to stay that way. I'm going to make a little mini diorama on the deck of a ship of this thing getting ready for flight.
Nice.
Very nice. Good job.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Really amazing. You know, one thing that just came to my mind as you are saying this, with all this information that you had, and whatnot, it sort of sounds like either you or someone in the future could almost do like an hour-long documentary on the vehicle or whatever. So whatever you're building, you could actually have sort of, it's like a work in progress. So you're showing the model and the work on the model, but at the same time, you incorporate history and all the facts that you find out and show how you incorporate that in the model. And that could actually be really good watching.
Actually,
well,
the
guy, the designer, he put in pages and pages and pages of historical information, went from one version to the next, blueprints, schematics, wireframe diagrams, and it was just amazing.
It would be great to have Mark Felton, Dr. Mark Felton, narrate that. Anyone who hasn't seen the videos from Mark Felton, you really need to see those. He manages to find the most obscure stuff about World War II. Just phenomenal. It's on. Just look for YouTube, Mark Felton.
Okay, and the other thing I shared was a build that I started quite a long time ago. It was the HK Models 1/32nd scale Mosquito, and I was doing it as a Pathfinder from a squadron that dropped the targeting flares for my father's Lancaster squadron. So I got this a couple of years ago, and I started in beautifully molded. The whole front fuselage is done in one piece. And of course, because I wanted to do something special and show off the interior, the first thing I did was cut it in half. Yeah, but there's a method for the madness. I searched online for a couple of good detail sets, and I think it was a Pro Modeler from in Hannons. They had an interior detail set that just blew me away. I don't know anything about the mechanisms that are in use here, but damn, it looks pretty impressive when it's all together. So between that and an Edward set and a lot of, guesstimation and teeny wires, it went together rather well. And you can just see this was just a world of scratch building. And it's anybody who says it's going to be a real shame when you close up the interior, well, ha ha ha, I'm going to have half the fuselage posed off to the side.
That's nice.
So you can't actually see inside. Now, it
Oh
differs a
my
little bit
God.
from the Tamiya one, which is a different variant. It's the fighter variant. But I got a lot of good ideas from that, like how to mount the radio sets in the back. So I made my own little mounting thing that resembled the Tamiya kit. Bunch of references that say this thing is this color, that thing is that color. First time I used cloth seat belts. They're fabric seat belts from Edward, but made by HGW, who does a lot of the World War I things. One important thing I learned is you have to take the cardboard backing off of the fabric seat belt. Yep.
Oops.
But yeah, a lot of work went into this. It's very, very busy, but it's been a real eye-opening experience looking at the way that these guys flew in these aircrafts that were essentially their home for hours on end. Tight, cramped, tiny little confined areas. So I tried to do it as much justice as I could. And that's as far as I got.
Beauty.
Love the way you,
Nice
you
job.
show the work in progress.
Right.
It's all about sharing the information, man.
Is this on the website, Glenn?
I dropped the links into the chat, Vince, if you want to go take a look and you can peruse the photos that you're leaving.
Great. Next up.
Good. Next up, Lorenzo.
Yes.
Hey.
Ooh.
All right, Lorenzo.
Oh, yeah. There's a fun build for you. Airfix's old Buccaneer.
Wow.
Ooh.
48?
Yeah. I wish they'd come out with a new one because this is no fun.
How old's that kit, Lorenzo?
Oh, God. It's been around, what?
94?
94? Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
So this is like one of about 20 projects I've got on the go since last March. I mean, that's all I've been doing.
Beautiful. Looks great.
Nice, man.
I'm kind of like in the process of doing the camel work now. So it's, like all over the place. So I got to tighten everything up and try to get it finished off.
Is that
eventually.
freehand?
That's freehand right now.
Very nice
Now,
to do.
so I just do it in all rough, and then I just tighten up the the camo until I get it to where I think it looks good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
Good job.
that's one of them. That's the the Hasegawa Mark I Hurricane.
Nice.
I've got 2 of those on the go.
RAF?
Yeah. It's going to be that's going to be what's his name? DT. Tux. Tux Hurricane. Yeah. Robert
DTA.
Yes. So I've got it. I've got it glossed up for decals. I use that. What's that stuff called? Goozy. AK makes it.
Oh.
Ghazi.
Yeah, it's really nice. I like it.
What, paint?
No, it's a gloss coat.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try using that now for a while. See how things turn.
Great. Looks good.
Yeah.
Beauty.
And that's
Hey.
I've done a lot of the Tamiya Thunderbolts. I've done like the D, the Razorback, the Bubble Top, the N. This is the M version.
Nice.
That's cool.
That's a very nice scheme.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like the 50. I think it was a 56 Fighter Squadron. They were really like freaky camo work on their plane. So I had the decal sheet, so I go, give it a shot. So
The fireball at the front, is that a decal or is that paint?
that's a decal. Yeah. It's
You
all
could have
decal.
lied.
Went down nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just another one that I
Nice.
have to finish. I mean,
Nice freehand work there.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just don't have the patience to do mass or
Yeah.
all that. Nah, I just you thin the paint enough to a certain point and it'll just come out nice. And
Oh, you're an anti-masker. I get it. Okay.
oh, and then
Boom.
yeah. So I mean, obviously, I think in the field they were probably just with a spray can. Or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you
Yeah,
go.
that's true. They weren't masking him. All right.
And I'll have more next month. Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, won't we all?
Stuff, Lorenzo. Nice stuff, man.
Thank you.
And then Ted Barrett sent in some pictures, but is he on?
Is Ted on?
Yeah, I'm on.
I don't know.
He was there a minute ago.
Ted, you there?
I'm here.
Oh, there he is.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is there's a guy over in France makes these little production runs of he's right into Bernard, this French company called Bernard, and I just got fascinated with the stuff he does. They're not fabulous kits. They're like early Dusion type resin kits where most of it's solid, and then they just have a little area for the cockpit pieces. But anyways, it's a Bernard HV41, the Schneider Trophy Racer from the late 20s. And I usually try to work in 30-second scale, and I don't know how John Wong does all of this nonsense, painting little tiny panels and that. And I was busy working on a 30-second scale Mirage 3, and then I turned around and thought, oh yeah, well, I'll paint this up and glue it together. So anyways, that's the cockpit interior. That's the seat. We actually molded some nice little seat belts on it. So I painted those up. Yeah, and there it is sitting up. I got really carried away the one night, which is way more than I usually do. I painted the interior and then got it, the fuselage and the wing glued together, and I just stuck it up on a strut for now.
Wow.
That's all. Is that resin you said? Was it
Yeah,
a resin
yeah,
kit or type?
Hey, pardon?
It's a bit of a resin kit, is it? Or like it looks.
Oh yeah, it's all resin.
Solid body. Wow.
Yeah, it's all resin, and the fuselage, except for the area where the cockpit is just solid resin, left and right halves.
Yeah, you can see it.
So
Oh, I see.
we've been
Okay, I didn't know what I was
working
looking at
from,
there.
an
Yeah.
early. Yeah, that's the cockpit area, and that's the seat, the instrument panel, and then the seat, and then the whole plane together.
And it must be 70-second scale, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really tiny. It's only about a 4-inch wingspan.
That's
5
tiny.
inch.
It's nuts.
Yeah, it's really neat. I've got a photograph the guy sent me of his finished up, and it's a sort of a medium grayish blue, more blue than gray, but it was aluminum painted wing. It's very attractive. Unfortunately, the engine that they had in it, they didn't get the engine figured out until almost on top of the 29 Schneider race. So they didn't have any time to practice with it. So the French just pulled their whole team out, and the aircraft never got to prove itself in the race. They just ended up using it as a training aircraft in the following years for the French team in the Schneider Trophy race.
What's that in the back right there?
That's what we're getting to now.
Oh.
Nice.
Oh, so
And what's up
That's
here?
one of the.
Right.
That's what one of the insurrectionists looked like.
Yeah, one of the pictures, the picture of the whole float plane had the little pig guy. If people remember the Star Wars movie, I think it's the episode 6 where Skywalker gets thrown into that pit. And
The Rancor pit.
The Rancor pit.
The Rancor pit.
Empire Strikes Back.
Rancor. And in the background of that Bernard Racer, you can see the little, I had the little pig that fell into the pit with Skywalker, ended up getting eaten by the Rancor. Oh yeah, the Gormorian Guard.
What kit is that?
The pig's leg there. I had him sort of in the claws at the time.
What kit is that?
It's, believe it or not, AMT Ertl back in the late 90s.
wow.
Yeah. There was a big craze of vinyl kits back in the mid to late 90s, and I guess into the early 2000s. And I just was fascinated with them. I've got about 3 or 4 other vinyl kits, and this I've had this since about 99 or 2000, and just in the last week I thought, oh,
well, maybe I'll glue the pig together, and that just got me on a roll. And I finally figured out how to soften the vinyl parts so you could get them joined together where they're supposed to join together, because they're notorious for being warped. And
did you use a hairdryer?
Yeah. So what you have to do is you find one spot that you can glue to the. In the case of this, the torso is by itself, and then the head and the arms and legs. You have to find one spot where they'll fit, crazy glue that together, and then slowly work around the whole joint with a hairdryer and soften the parts up and just crazy glue and hold until you get it all glued all the way around.
Wow.
So,
Too much work.
That's impressive.
Give him Ralphie because it just works good. Ralphie the Ranker.
And I love this because I've been lately looking at the vinyl kits, but at the same time, you're talking about the 1929 Schneider Trophy, and just about a month ago and a bit, I picked up a kit from Hungary, a resin kit of the Pegna, one of the most beautiful, beautiful planes I've ever seen. That's why I actually got it. And it also, they couldn't get it to lift off from the water correctly, and it didn't make the race either. So,
yeah.
The Piaggio Pegna.
The ones that did successfully race, we know if you're into Schneider Trophy, you get to know them. But there are so many fascinating ones that never did fly proper, so they ended up using them as a lot of the Gloucester ones. They had fabulous racers. And they ended up being used as training aircraft for the Supermarines because they needed something for the pilots to practice on, and they didn't want to waste the ones that they were going to actually use in the races.
Indeed. Very cool.
Yeah, I've got several books on the subject. I'm just looking.
Yeah, he's about 12 inches tall. So he's a big boy. The fun part now is I don't have to worry about the seams as much because they're all laid along wrinkle lines. So I've just been filling them in with Mr. Surfacer 1000 in a brush. And maybe sometime next week I'll go out into my tool shed and put some gray primer on them.
Nice.
All right, so that does it with the photos that I've been sent this week, or this month. So either Harvey, if you want to take over and do yours, or I think you said.
I'll be quick, actually.
Okay.
Well, I know that David wanted to share.
Oh, David, you go first. David, you go first. David Young.
So, Mr. Gerton.
Go ahead, David.
All right, I'll unmute here, and I'm not sure what all I've shown, but I'll start with this one here. Oh, it says the host is disabled participant screen share. So somebody's got to turn it on.
That's correct.
Yeah, hold on a second there, David. Hold on a minute.
No worries.
You'll have to make a post, yeah.
There you are, sir.
Awesome. Go over here. So bring up the box art here. So this is a kit I bought. This kit was released in around 2000 by Tamiya, and I bought it within months of it coming out. And I started it right away, and I got part way. I got a bit of assembly done on it, and then it went in the box, and it was in the box until about 3 months ago. Not even, maybe 2 months ago, partly assembled. I ended up giving it to a club member at one point, and he gave it back to me. The cockpit was also done. So I decided I was going to finish it up. So I started doing some painting on it. There's me doing the gear wells. There's the basic paint when I started to mask for the stripes and the fuselage. I tried to use the decal for this, but it was just awful. I figured it would be, so I had to paint it. That's fine. So there it is, masked off to paint. It's always fun to paint one little area. You have to mask the entire model, of course, right? We all know that. If you can't stand masking models, you shouldn't be building them, I guess, sometimes, but not necessarily, because I didn't mask the camouflage on this. So there's a basic camouflage done there. There's the finished piece there.
Nice.
Oh, beauty.
Yeah,
Very nice.
so, that's a beaut, David.
So it's, 72nd scale. I free-handed all the camouflage on it. I've got one of those Grex trigger action airbrushes. So, I thinned the paint way down, turned the pressure down a bit, and just took my time. And got it all done. So, and it turned out pretty nice. I used Tamiya acrylics for it. I primed it with Mr. Surfacer 1500, they're gray. And then I used all Tamiya acrylics on this. I usually use lacquers, but I've got tons of Tamiya colors. I had the colors for this, so I figured I'd use it.
Beauty.
It's not my usual subject. This is the only Luftwaffe aircraft I've ever built. I've got an ME-262 in the collection I'll build, and that'll probably be all I ever build. It's not really my big thing, but it was fun. I want to do different stuff, so I did some stuff I haven't done before. The pitot tube on the wingtip here, that I used metal tubing for that, the Albion Alloys metal tubing. 2 pieces telescoped together.
Beautiful.
The antenna, I used Easy Line for that. I'd never used that before, so that stuff works really. It's so simple to use. It's just the Easy Line. They call it that for a reason, right? So, and after it was glossed and the decals were all done, I did put I did a wash on the whole thing. I used, what have I got? I got a bunch of the old Meg washes. So I just, used their dark wash and did a whole wash on all the panel lines and everything. And so it was fun. I learned some new stuff. Like, this picture's awful. You can see this wingtip is drooped. That really pisses me off. I noticed it this late in the game, but what are you going to do, right? So the spiral on the spinner is the decal out of the kit. That's about probably 20 minutes of work to get that on there. It's a complete nightmare, a ton of setting solution to get it to go on, but it worked out okay in the end, so I'm pretty happy with it.
Nice.
There's a front view there of it. So the Tamiya kit's nice. They, the way the landing gear locks in place and the wheels lock on and everything, so you get this alignment all pretty good, right? So it's not out of whack on you or anything. There's the underside there. Again, I gave it a bit of a wash. I used a little bit of pigment just for with the, the shell ejection ports and stuff like that. And just to sort of make things pop a little bit, right?
That's beauty. The Tamiya kit, beauty.
Yeah, the Tamiya kits are so easy. There's a loop antenna. I was going to use the kit part for this. It was pretty fat, but I was like, I just wanted to finish the model, whatever. And I got little clips, right? And I had a little part and a little clip, and I went to get the part in the little clip one day, and it wasn't in the little clip anymore. So, so it departed at some point. Who knows where it is in my hobby room? But so it forced me to, to make it out of a little loop of wire. So I don't know if it's supposed to be black or whatever. It's hard to tell from reference photos. So I just left it shiny metal. I don't know how that really was. So, and then I added these little posts here for the landing gear indicators.
Yeah, I was just about to say. I thought that's an ad. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a very prominent feature I noticed on the FW190. So I couldn't leave it off. So
yeah.
Again, it's like 0.3 millimeter tubing, and I just colored it red with a Sharpie before I cut it. And then I cut it, and I drilled a tiny little hole, and I installed it, and I just put a little dot of red on the end to finish it up. So it looks the part. I'm pretty happy. Oh, there's a painting photo again. So.
By the way, guys, Zeros had those too. Very prominent.
Yes, when I was doing my research, I noticed that. Yeah, I'm like, if I ever build a Zero, I guess I'm going to build a collection of sort of, important aircraft from World War II. So I've got this one. I got an ME-262. I'm going to build. I'll build a single 109, I think, and then I got a whole bunch of Spitfires and Hurricanes to build. So
is that indicator particular to the 190, or did other 109s and stuff have it too?
I don't think the 109 had it. The experts will know more than I, but.
Yeah, I don't know about the 109s.
But I know the 190 did. So, and it was hard to find out if this was all red or if it was red and white or if it was white with a red tip. And all the reference I kept finding on this mostly was all other people's models, and it was all over the place. So I just said, screw it. I just painted it red.
That's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So I imagine they were doing whatever, late in the war, they were just wanting to get planes in the air, right? So, because we were kicking their ass. So,
yeah.
So anyways, that's the finished piece. I'm pretty happy with it. It's
nice.
It's pretty
nice job. Nice job.
Nice. So now let's see here. I don't think I was on the last meeting. Did you guys see this Falcon that I built?
No, not yet.
No.
Did you build the Falca? That's the machine intriguer Falca that's in the background?
I did, yeah.
Very, very nice.
I don't know if I showed that yet either or not. Maybe
No.
So I'll be quick. So this was built, so every year for the 24 Hours of Daytona, there was a group of car modelers down in New Jersey somewhere, and they used to do a 24-hour build during the race. Well, they're in their 15th year now, and they've created a Facebook group the last few years, and they've opened it up for anybody to build anything. So you start at noon on Saturday, you got to finish by noon on Sunday. Is basically how they do it, right? So I decided to build a Bandai Millennium Falcon because these kits are really easy to build, right? These guys are tiny. They're like 7 millimeters tall, these little guys. So it was a nightmare to paint them. I even tried to paint a mustache on Lando Calrissian. It kind of worked, but it's still a big on one side. It's like the ultimate porn stash almost, right? So anyways, once you put them in the cockpit, I mean, this thing's so small, these guys pretty much disappear, especially once the canopy's on. So, you know, I did some masking and painting. I used all Gunzy lacquers because they dry real fast. So I primed it with, I think I primed it with white Mr. Surfacer, and then I used one of the off-whites for the white on here, I think, or maybe I left it the primer color, I don't remember. Anyways, at about 4 a.m., this is where I was, and I decided I'm going to go to bed for a bit. So I went and I slept for about 6 hours, and I got up the next day and finished it. I thought I could finish it by noon, but what I forgot was, if you look real close, there's like all these little stencil decals are on here, little red things, yellow. So there's like 75 of these little stencils on this model. It's completely insane, right? So that took me like 3 hours just to get all those things on there. But I got it done, and I had put a wash on here using an acrylic wash, and I left it overnight, and then the next day I took a damp cloth and just rubbed the whole thing down and got all the overwash off of it, just to leave a little bit of dirt in here, because this is, you know, the new Millennium Falcon, so it's not very dirty, right, in the movie, the Han Solo movie. And I just did a bit of weathering around the exhaust with some pigments, and I did a bit of orange wash, a bit of rust with some black in it, and a few of these recessed panels, just trist. I mean, you know how it is, right? So, and that's the finished piece there. So it took me 20 hours of actual build time, but it took me 26 hours of real world time to build this. Right. So
question about that.
I mean, David, you either sleep in between building or sleep in meetings like I do.
Yeah, I could, right?
So, and by the way, I have fallen asleep in like meetings where I was getting paid. So.
Very good. You had a question, Glenn?
Yeah. Always wondered. You see that the way the streaking is coming in from the exhaust vents?
Yes.
I noticed it. Was there ever a reason why the streaking was perfectly in line instead of, you know, the direction that this thing travels?
There's been long, drawn-out debates on message forums for 20 plus years about that. Plus, there's been like endless Facebook discussions about it. It's like, are the mandibles parallel at the front, or are they towed in slightly? And it's just a never-ending discussion about it. So the studio model had it coming out like this. So I just did what they did on the studio model. Now, I could have done it straight, and it would have been more accurate to the airstream, but I don't know, right? So, I mean, yeah.
Just follow the movie.
Just follow the movie.
Just follow the movie.
Okay, it's canon.
Right? So I just followed what they did in the studio model.
That's it.
It's amazing what an overabundance of food and clean drinking water will allow people to think about.
Oh, right? Isn't it, right? First world problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So I'll jump in here quick, and I'll just talk about my my Falky as well. So again, this was a build I started probably 12 or 13 years ago. And this, you know, Machine and Krieger Falky, it's supposed to be done up like a tank, right? And I kind of wasn't too interested in doing that, so I threw it in the box. I was going to give it away. I was going to sell it.
Oh, this is brilliant, guys.
For years. Oh, God, don't. Oh, thank God you didn't.
And then I thought to myself, you know, and then I saw Ford versus Ferrari, right? And it sort of rekindled my love of auto racing a little bit. And then I went and watched Le Mans, and I watched Grand Prix, and I watched Ford versus Ferrari 3 or 4 more times over the course of a month. And I thought to myself, man, it'd be really, really cool to do this Falky up in golf racing markings. So
that's brilliant.
The first photos I started to take, I think there's some older stuff in here. Hold on. Where is it? These aren't exactly in order. I apologize for that. No, I don't have the older photos in this folder. So anyways, there's a bunch of bumps and lumps on this thing. So I filled the holes in, and I tried to smooth the whole thing out so it's much more like a racer. So this is here, I painted the base colors, and this is me masking it off, and I just paint the circles on it for the numbers, right? And then what I did was I took pinstripe tape, and for the stripe between the orange and the blue Gulf colors, I pinstripe taped the whole thing, and then I masked all around the pinstriping, and then I peeled the pinstriping off. So it left just the black pinstripes exposed, right? So this is like hours of masking, of course, because that's what we do.
Love
right?
it.
As modelers.
That's what we do.
You can see
Super
here
tedious.
the pinstripes are left as well, right? And there's more of the pinstripes there. Then I sprayed the black, you spray for 5 minutes, right? And then, you're like, I hope it's good. Then you take it off and you get these real nice pinstripes, right? So I was pretty happy with that result.
Whoa, jeez.
I am straight.
So, and the paints I used on here, there's a company called Zero Paints, and they make automotive racing colors. There's a guy out in Calgary called Paints, Models, and More that sells this stuff. And so I got the golf racing colors from him, and you can see these paints. It smells like it's an automotive paint, pretty thin. It comes in a big jar, basically, I think. And it goes on with sort of this satin finish on there. So you have to gloss it if you want to have a nice glossy finish. So
are they enamels? Zero Paints? Are they?
No, they're like
lacquers, right?
Automotive lacquers.
And I think they're thin with xylene or something. Because when I went to clean my airbrush, lacquer thinner didn't really want to clean it out of the airbrush. So I had to use acetone, right? And blow that through the airbrush to clean it out. So it was like kind of like crazy. I painted a Ford GT, 2017 Le Mans Ford GT with the same paints, and the red was really nasty. I had to use again acetone to get it out of the airbrush and stuff, right?
David, have you used gravity, or have you only used the zeros?
I've only used the zero because I could get it here in Canada easily. You just email the guy, he sends you his price list, you send back what you want, and the next day he basically sends you a PDF.
I can't remember. I think it was hard. Weren't you and I were talking once, and you were saying that there were a lot of negative reviews. Was it gravity or zero? I can't remember. Do you remember?
The gravity.
Yeah.
I know there were a lot of controversy with sales, I think, of gravity paint.
Yeah.
Gravity USA, not Gravity Europe.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alex. What's the story?
Gravity USA is separate from Gravity Europe. And so people thought they're both the same company. But they're separate. And the people in the States apparently are not very good with customer service.
No.
Yeah.
I ordered paint from there last year and never got it.
That's no good.
Yeah, a lot of people have the same story.
Wow,
of the zero paints, the zero paints, there is a guy in Toronto, a Gundam guy that sells them, though I don't know if he's still in business. He was sort of like one of those guys that decided to open up a store during COVID. I'll also check if he's still around and put it up, because he was like blasting everywhere. Oh, look, I've got, because you're also into cars. He was like, I've got these paints. Anyway.
So the big advantage of gravity is that they've got matched colors that are matched to racing team colors.
Yep.
Is
Yeah,
that it?
they're perfectly matched. They even have stuff like a Caterpillar yellow, and they've got like school bus, yellow and all that kind of stuff. So they got all kinds of, any kind of automotive or construction sort of color you want. They have all that stuff. And I mean, the jars are fairly big on the single colors. When you get the color sets, the jars they're a little bit smaller. But
Well, I guess, yeah, sure, that makes sense, David. I mean,
like how much
when you consider that there are paint lines that are specific for train guys, right?
Yeah.
You need a CN red or
the jars
for automotive gravity or zero paints there. Here's the set for your 1942 Ferrari, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, they have all the weird automotive colors. They got a huge selection. So anyways, they spray real nice. Like they're beautiful, right? And they flash off real quick. So you can do you can spray, you can wait 5 minutes, you can spray again, wait 5 minutes, spray again, right? So with something this is a pretty big model, it's 1/20th scale. So by the time I started spraying down here and got all the way around the whole vehicle, by the time I was done, this side was dry enough. I could start here again and go around again and go around a third time, right? And so in one session, you can put all your coats of paint on and get a nice thick coat, right? Wow. And the paint is so thin, it goes on really thin, doesn't obscure detail. It's just gorgeous.
You didn't
really
rub
nice
this
stuff.
out, did you?
What's that?
Did you rub this out at all with
No, this is the paint right out of the jar.
Oh, okay.
Right now, I'll get to that part. So then I masked again and painted some other colors and I masked the bottom to do some, black and stuff, and I repainted the engine, and I tried to do some heat staining on the engine. My first time doing that, right, to give it a bit of visual interest. And then what did I do here? So I've masked it off one more time to start glossing it, I think. And then this is with the gloss. So I did like 5 coats of gloss, and then I put decals on.
Oh,
right?
nice.
I waited
Nice.
like a day.
Which,
And then what I did was,
what gloss you use, David?
so I used the Tamiya LP9 lacquer.
Nice. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Right? And I thin that stuff like 70% thinner.
Yeah,
So it goes on really thin.
Nice.
And again, being a lacquer, it flashes off really quick. So I could spray, and I set it down for 5 or 10 minutes. I came back and I did like 4 coats that were fairly thin like that, about 10 minutes apart. Then I did a really scary wet coat. It's like, is it gonna run? Is it not gonna run? You're on the borderline and you're not sure, so you stop, right? So I put on 2 coats like that, about 20 minutes apart.
Nice.
And then I just didn't touch it for like a week, right? I just put it under like a plastic bin with some spacers so it could breathe, so no dust would get on it. And I didn't even touch it. I just would look through the clear bit at it and kind of like rub my hands like I can't wait until I can look at my model, right? Sort of thing.
It came out.
Sweet, man.
And it's supposed to be a hobby, David, right? All
so
that.
you see, this is decals and clear before I polish. You can see it's got some texture still.
Some orange peel, yeah.
Right. Oh, and this is the trailer I built for it, right? So these resin pieces, I turned a piece on the lathe and cast it at work, and then the trailer is made out of plastistruct, and then it's parts out of my spares bin. So what they call greeblies in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Right? So you can see there's some kind of a gun barrel on the side. Somebody told me the wheels were made out of a KV, some Russian tank. I don't know armor, guys, so you can smack me when you see me next. This is landing gear from a TIE fighter here. This is part of a foot off of an ATST. This is some kind of gear, suspension off of a tank.
Awesome.
Right. So, and this is like pieces of a transport truck model. So I just, this is kit bashing, right? They call this.
Nice.
So I kit bashed the trailer for this thing, so I'd have something for it to sit on. Because it's like a hover vehicle, right?
Yeah, nice.
So I painted a
Did
black.
anybody ever offer a commercial kit of a transport trailer for the Talkies?
The only one that came out is a friend of mine, Jason Eaton, did a resin kit. He only made 100 of them, and it was a resin kit that was an exact copy of what Ko Yokoyama originally made during the SF3D days. So it was the actual trailer. So now you can go online, you can find all the parts to build that yourself if you want. But there was never a styrene kit. You'd have to kit bash it out of old kit parts, right? So
I'm surprised someone hasn't done a 3D drawing and just offered up the STL files for download.
Yeah.
Well, it may happen. I mean, that's the last 18 months, that whole industry has exploded, right? So it's quite possible that that could happen. So this is, I think, the clear off before. What's that?
Dave, the engine on Falke, if I'm not mistaken, I saw Yokawa's. I think, isn't that a yogurt container that he used or something?
Yeah, it's some kind of a Japanese yogurt drink. And so he just took the little plastic container from the yogurt drink and he just used that for the engine. I got one kicking around here somewhere. Somebody gave me at some point.
Well, those are 2 P38 engines too.
Yeah, so these are P38s. This is some kind of an old like a Datsun car or something in here. This is the trunk. What you're seeing here is the trunk of a Datsun. That's actually the keyhole, and that's like the horn ornament on the back.
Oh my God!
Let's go there.
Geez.
Right. So
the landing gear. Yeah, the landing gear that it's sitting on are ping pong balls that were cut in half.
Yes.
Yeah.
So science fiction.
Yeah. So the anti-gravity spheres, they're ping pong balls cut in half, and then there's detail on the underside you'll see, and it's all kinds of the leaf springs and actuators and pieces of old landing gear from aircraft and stuff. So now what happened was, you can see in this picture, it's got these Champion decals on here. Well, when I put the clear coat on, the paint I had on these front sections was like some kind of a graphite gray or something. It started to do that weird cracking thing that paint does. So I was like, so I thought, well, screw it. I'm going to mask this later and I'm going to repaint those like flat black or something. Because there were seams in here in this little gap that were really hard to get to. And when you're painting in there, I was getting a lot of spalling of the paint going in. And I was just having a hell of a time with it. So I thought, I'm going to paint those flat black to hide all that, right? So when I masked paint the flat black, I ripped that one decal off. This decal came out of like a 40-year-old F1 kit, an old Tamiya F1 kit, right? So I thought, well, how am I going to fix that? So I tried to polish it out. Didn't polish out very nice. I started to polish through my clear coat under there because there was less clear coat underneath than on top. So I got the brilliant idea. There's a picture here somewhere of just adding. This is like the aluminum duct tape for sealing your ductwork.
Yep.
So I just cut rectangles of that, and then I just stuck it on, and then I took those riveting tools you can get from UMM.
Yeah.
I just
Rosie the riveter.
I Rosie the riveted it. So I'm laying in bed at night, going to bed, and I'm thinking, man, I don't like those square panels. They look lame. And suddenly my brain goes, you have a riveting tool. And I'm like, oh, so I'm laying in bed at like 1 o'clock at night, you know, so the next day I got my riveting tool out. I did these 2 panels, and this was covering a hole. There was supposed to be a kit part to glue over this little spot up here, and I didn't like it. So I just ignored it, right? So I'll keep going here. So I bought some aftermarket photo etch bolts. These are 0.6 millimeter bolts for like Formula 1 cars. So I just added those around here after the thing was polished, just to give it a bit of visual interest, right? Look like a kind of like a Formula 1 car. You can see these things are painted flat black now. These are like gunmetal or something, and I painted the bolts and stuff on here with a bit of silver. You can see those panels again that I riveted here. So it looks pretty good. Looks,
that's
it looks
beautiful.
like something now. Yeah. So this is a piece I made at work. I took a piece of aluminum stock and I turned it on the lathe. And then I stuck it in our milling machine with an indexer, and I drilled 4 holes in the side. I made 1 hole at a bit of an angle so that this outside antenna is angled back a little bit, just to kind of look neat, right? And these red pieces here on the control fins, I'd forgotten all about those. Like I said, I started this thing like 12 years ago. So I'm looking at the instructions finally, and I'm like, oh man, I totally left these parts off. So I just painted them red, put a bit of silver on there. And I thought the red's kind of nice because, you know, like a Formula 1 car or even like a rally car or a Le Mans car will have like the toe hooks on the front and the back, and they're like a red.
Yep.
So I thought, well, I'll give it a red accent like that, right? So all the panel lines, I gave them a wash with an acrylic. I think it was an Vallejo acrylic wash, which is really nice. You put the wash on the super gloss paint, and then you can just leave it. And you can come, once it's dry, you can just take a cloth and just polish it off. And anything that's not in the crack just goes away, right? And plus, you know, it lets you repolish your entire finish. That's kind of nice. There's another view of that there. So I'm very happy with the finish. So it's like, you know,
gorgeous.
Jeez, yeah.
This is hours of polishing. So for the finish, what I used was, I used those God hand polishing sponges you can get. They have them at Panda Hobbies, right? I know. So I used the 4,000 and then the 6,000 grit one of those. And then I used the 3 grits of the Tamiya polishing compounds you can get. And then I used the Tamiya wax on top of that.
Wow.
And I'd used it on my Le Mans car I did last year. And it turned out really nice. So I was pretty confident I was going to get a nice finish on this model with it. And it turned out nice. And then in my spares bin, I had this fuel tank off a transport truck. So I didn't gloss it, but I gave it the same Gulf colors and just stuck it on there. So, you know, it goes with the whole theme, right?
That's really snappy.
Yeah.
I found this thing here. This is some kind of a tank. I don't know what this was from, but I'm calling it a fire extinguisher now. I actually ended up putting a decal on that fire bottle. I call this a fuel filler. I put a couple more bolts on there. And then I made a base for it. I just put some lines and I did a bit of weathering on the base and that. And I put a couple of oil spills just so it's sitting on something, right? There's a front view. These look really shiny, and this chrome looks really nice and polished in these views. I like that. I like that picture a lot. So, and you can see how glossy it is with this little thing on the front there. So
sweet. Very nice.
A couple more beauty shots of it here, side view. Once I got, there's the interior. So the interior is like military colored, right? Because I started this thing 12 years ago. But I thought it's kind of neat because I thought if this was like some kind of a thing left over after some kind of a war, and a bunch of these are kicking around scrapyards, maybe they start a racing league. So guys are getting these things, they're tuning them up and they're painting them up and they're racing them, right? So,
you know, Dave,
so I thought having the old interior would be cool. I painted the inside, this little one cushion here, the Gulf blue color, just to tie it in a little bit, right?
You know, that's not far-fetched. I mean, right after World War II, there were drop tank racers, right?
That's what I thought, Vince. I thought, you know, they were taking drop tanks and making racers and doing all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
like
you
they're
can see here,
them.
I added a decal to my little fire bottle. I don't know what it was. I got boxes and boxes of old decals, right? So I just stuck something on there to make it look like. The last thing I'm going to do, I haven't done yet, I'm going to put a bunch of like scorching and weathering on the top of this thing because it's behind the engine. So I figured they fire this thing up while sitting on the trailer. It's probably going to be, maybe this is like a thermal sensor so they can tell if the engine's working good or not, right, before the race starts. Science fiction, make it up how you want, right? So, and that's like my side.
That is sharp. That is really sharp.
Considering our eyes have now become so accustomed to weathered stuff, seeing something nice and glossy and shiny
and new
just off the production line sort of thing.
You just say, there's a lot of skill here.
Like, I'm addicted to these glossy, beautiful finishes. Like, I spent years in my business doing a lot of like presentation models and stuff like that, right? And so yeah, I'm addicted to these glossy finishes. So the next thing I got to do now is I got to try and master weathering, right? I got all the weathering pigments, I got all the chipping stuff, I got all that stuff. So so that'll be my next thing to do, is to try and figure out how do I weather stuff, right? So I mean, there's lots of tutorials out there. I just got to go and do it. So anyways, that's it. That's my show and tell, guys.
Great job, man.
Beautiful.
Wow,
Thanks, Dave. That was really cool. Yep. Does anybody have, before we turn it over to Harvey, does anybody else have anything they want to share or talk about?
David, why don't we, I think we need to.
Hold on, Jonathan's got something, right?
Okay.
Remember my comment about it feels like Groundhog Day every day?
Yeah.
Well, this year, Groundhog Day, my wife walked into the living room and watched the second shelf of glass of my model cabinet collapse onto the third shelf.
Whoa.
She came down, she was in more shock. 8 models took a hit, 3 of my newest, my 2 subs that you saw last month. So the Russian sub has a whole new set of masts. The S submarine, the actual white metal periscopes were a perfect U in 180 degrees. And the Tamiya Gray didn't actually chip off except for the joint into the tower. But in the middle of Valentine's Day, I finished fixing the last one. They are now there. The pins in the glass shelf are now caulked in place. We have no idea. I could jump in the living room and nothing would happen, but somehow it did. So, if all helps, you can always rebuild something.
True enough.
Great. Yeah. Okay, so it's interesting. David went to his Tamiya Bachwolf, and I just did the Tamiya Key 61 Tony. Just such a gorgeous kit. This is their latest kit in the 72nd range. It literally came out, I think, last year while I was in Tokyo, and they do 2 versions. They do this one, and they do a plated silver one. I got both. I'm gonna do them both. Such a stunning kit. Just goes together like just beautifully. Anyways, I broke down and bought a custom Micron airbrush finally. I know you guys probably have one already, or some of you do, but I never did. So I got the custom Micron 2B with a 0.18 needle, and I wanted to see what I could do with it. So this particular version of the kit is a Te version, a D version. The one I wanted to do is an Atsu version, so you have to shorten the nose a bit, but I was more focused on the finish. And as David's talking about weathering, I really focused on an out-of-box build with weathering. So this is the 72nd aircraft, and the scheme is it's a very tightly weaved spiderweb pattern. As per photos of this aircraft, it was completely worn. It was applied over a previous splotched finish. It's hard to see in the photos, but you can see the weave here is very tight in some areas. See, right here? And underneath is a worn away lighter olive green. It's a kamikaze unit. There, you see? And so I got the custom microns to spray down to about 0.5 millimeter. It's got no overspray, and I used Gunzi paints, a couple of drops of dishwashing liquid in it, thinned with isopropyl alcohol. It really gives you a tight pattern. If you are looking at the cockpit, a note for you Japanese aircraft enthusiasts, The colors for a lot of these Japanese aircraft are now seen to be somewhat incorrect because of some of the really neat research that Nick Millman's done on actual color chips. And maybe we can talk about it another time, but I've got some color mixes for the proper Japanese Army cockpit green. Used hairspray technique to basically muck everything up. And then back here, there's a lot of worn area on the natural metal finish. Basically, that's all I got to say about it. It was a beautiful build. I'm doing a second one now. This one is going in, I think, the next issue or the issue after in scale aircraft modeling. So humbly, it'll be in the next one. So watch for the details there.
They have a 48th version of this?
Yeah, they do have a 48th one. There's no one that it's a little bit older. It's not silver plated, but they do have a very nice 48th one.
That's a sleek looking aircraft.
Sorry?
Yeah, the 61 has always been I've always loved the Tonys, like from as a kid. The lines on it are just incredible. But I'm having trouble believing that this is recent, Harvey, because we all know that the Canadian penny no longer exists.
Yeah, somebody noticed that. Yeah, I still got one.
Hey guys, notice how it looks sort of like the Mach-E 202?
It does.
Hence the name Tony?
Yeah. I also use the shadow. Yeah, that's true. That's true, right. Vince. I also use the shadow cutter for the roundels. So
I was gonna say, like those look like they were they look like they're painted on.
They're painted on, yeah. If you're serious about Japanese aircraft, don't use decals.
So Harvey, the 61, there's a radial engine version, correct?
Yes, it's the Key 100.
Now, did they run out of? Is that a Daimler-Benz 605 or 601 engine?
Licensed built. Yeah.
So why did and the Japanese really didn't do much in the way of inline for fighters?
No, just this one and the Judy. And I'll show you pictures of that one in Tokyo. Yeah, I've got pictures of that one in Tokyo, and I know it's 909, but I'll be quick on the Tokyo piece. So let me stop this.
That's a really nice aircraft, though, Harv.
Yeah,
beautiful. Really nice.
Thank you.
The wingspan on that looks so long compared to the fuselage length.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's a beautiful, stunning aircraft and a beautiful model.
Harvey, question.
Yeah.
You mentioned the mix of paint. So you actually put isopropyl alcohol into lacquer, and that was okay?
No. So I keep a lot of the really old Gunzy Akias acrylics. They're fabulous.
Oh, okay.
You really can't get them anymore. And if you can find some, get it. I think Dragon Hobbies in Toronto has an old rack. There's not many people that carry it. It's the older brand, and they're acrylics. Now, I have used this formula on others, but I just found that using about 70 or even 99% hot isopropyl, thinned, 60-40 with more thinner, and adding a couple of drops of dish liquid, I got a really tight pattern that I couldn't get with AK paints. Now, I'm using a custom micron with all the settings on it, and I managed to do that scheme in 1 hour, which is kudos to the airbrush. It's the settings on that airbrush is stunning. We'll do a separate seminar on the custom micron. I love that thing.
Is that the one with the micro air controller built into the
Yes.
kit?
Yeah.
Nice.
You can adjust You can adjust the tension on the needle. We'll do a separate one there, but let me just quickly show the.
My micron, for example, doesn't have a Mac controller. But anyway,
you guys see this?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it?
Okay, I'm just going to go quickly through because I know it's 9:10. Just enjoy the show. It's going to be about 15 minutes. This is a trip to Tokyo. I went twice. This one was just before the pandemic. This is just some stuff around Tokyo that just sits there. Nobody knows what it is. This is actually a concrete aircraft bunker for Key 61 Tonys and intercept fighters. It's now used as a storage shed as part of the Tokyo Metro subway system. There's no plaque on it or anything, but that's what it is. And they've got crates and boxes if you look inside there, but it's a concrete aircraft bunker. If you look at some of the bridges in Tokyo, you can still see bomb shrapnel damage, like this one here. And again, it's not marked, but you can clearly see these are, you know, blast marks. This one is the railway, the last remnants of the railway into the Tachikawa aircraft. No, Nakajima. Actually, they call it Nakajima, but Western people call it Nakajima. To their aircraft production factory, and this is what's left of the railroad leading to the factory, which is long gone. This is still there. This is the airfield at Tachikawa, where they built aircraft, and this is they left this building as it is. These are pockmarked machine gun bullet rounds from strafing American fighters, and they've just left the building. There's nothing in it. They've left it there, kind of like a memorial to the war. There's lots of this stuff in Tokyo. I've got more, but for sake of shortage of time, this is the famous Ashikan Museum, or the Yasukuni Shrine that you heard where all the controversy is with war criminals. It's got a fabulous, fabulous museum. That's the shrine. The museum is not part of the shrine. It's separate. But it's basically their Smithsonian, if you're into Japanese militaria. Just quickly, there's a little bit of everything here for everyone. This is the locomotive from the Burma Railway, so it's got quite a dark history. I think it's the only one left, and it's in this. There's the insides. It's really beautiful. That's a picture of the actual locomotive. So the Death Railway, it was part of that. Everyone know what this is, right? It's a Japanese Zero. That's in the main foyer. It's an A6M5. They restored it, but they kept the remnants of the aircraft in pieces in right beside the aircraft. So you can, that's in the Zero seat. You can see it's aluminum. There's the gun. There's the aircraft. Best place to have lunch, guys, is right there because you're overlooking a Zero. My wife and I ate there, and it's really, really good. Shots of the landing gear. And I'm going quick, but, you know, stop me if you want. If you're really a stickler for colors, these are incorrect. The Japanese Zeros were not this color in the wheel wells, but hey, you know, we'll talk about that later. Otherwise, did a pretty good job. These are some of the rare Japanese artillery pieces. There's not, these were damaged at Saipan. You can still see the damage and see the shrapnel damage. And they're pretty rare artillery pieces if you're into that. What's more interesting is down the line as I'm clicking through the samurai collection there. These are all originals from the 1500s, the Sengoku period of warring states in Japan. Beautiful pieces of armory. They're all original. There's an Oka. Now the main foyer, there's a Japanese sub for you, Glenn. That's the inside of it that they're restoring.
Which version is that?
That's one of the, what, Type 93 Midget or something like that?
Kaitan.
Yeah, Kaitan.
But
Yep.
I think it's the first one, which was narrow.
That's right.
The second one had a bigger hull in the middle, near the stern.
This is the guns from the battleship Mutsu that blew up in the harbor, so they just resurrected. They dug up one of these from the battleship. They got weird stuff like landing craft. The guys that build models are really craftsmen. This is an example of Japanese landing craft, which nobody ever sees. They're all scratch built. They're about, oh, this one here, Battle of Midway, the sinking of the aircraft carrier Hiryu. Yamaguchi, the admiral, went down with the ship at Midway. He's handing over his tunic to his senior officers, and he went down. This is the tunic that he handed over. A knee mortar, parachute harness, bits of aircraft. Now the model collection there is stunning. These are all 700. They probably were at least a couple of hundred of these, and must be built by the local club. And they were all well done. These were all scratch built. These are all about 48 scale, I would say.
What?
And if you've watched Letters from Iwo Jima, this is Takechi, Michi Katechi. He won the gold medal at the 32 Olympics. He died in Iwo Jima. These are his medals from the 1932 Olympics. This is a memorial to, I guess, some of the people that died during the war. The wall's massive. Baseball players who died as kamikazes. They were famous baseball players, and they all died as kamikaze pilots during the war. See, that's the whole bunch of them. So it's a bit somber. These Type 88 anti-aircraft gun, all Japanese stuff, but there's a Chiha right there, captured from Saipan. If you want any of these pictures for your models, let me know and I can send them to you. This one was destroyed by an anti-tank round, and I stuck my camera through. The engine's still in there, and you can't see much, but the whole crew died, and there's the engine inside. Scrolling through these quickly, there's another Type. Now this aircraft carrier is about 48 scale, so just think of the size.
Harvey, it's Kevin White. Do you think the colors for the tank were accurate?
No. Good point. No, they're not. They're close, but they're not. Good point. Let's just say that we can have a whole discussion. Maybe I'll do another one on Japanese armor one day, but they're not accurate. Field pieces. Like if you're into Japanese, this is all pretty rare stuff. I'll get to the, now these are all about 72nd scale, I think. They're all scratch built Japanese naval.
Wow.
Like they're talented guys over there.
Fantastic.
Oh, I like that.
Wow.
Yeah, that one is the American view of an Oka. Get it? That's a joke.
Can you go back one picture?
Yeah.
One more.
One more.
Is that a suicide boat?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it looks like an Italian MTM.
Yeah, exactly.
It looks like the Barcino.
Yes, it does.
Barcino.
And it's where's it here? There it is. It's a special attack surface boat, Shinyo Model 1.
Yeah, the
Scratch
Barcino
built.
was.
That one is about 32nd scale. Whoever built it.
Yeah.
It's just personal equipment that they dug up in Saipan. That's the anchor from the Mutsu, the gun again, some scratch-built subs. These are all about 48 scale.
Hold on, is that a mini sub carrier?
Yeah, yeah.
Which sub was that?
That one is, it's right on it's the E36. Right there.
Cool. How many subs could it carry? 2,
4?
8?
I think 4 midgets here. 2, 4, 6, 8, I think.
Wow.
There's a good movie if you guys can find it. There's a good movie that they made in Japan on the midget submarine guys. It's actually not bad.
Oh,
there's
your worth seeing.
They made the movie I think about 10 years ago. It's pretty good. It's
Oh, really?
They don't
have a link. Please share.
Yeah, let me send you what the name of it is, Glenn. I'll get the title for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Wow, look at that. Look at the look at the surface. It's not
pristine, that's for sure.
No, not even
No,
close.
it's not. No, it's not. That's the Judy. There's the other inline engine for the Judy.
Yeah.
Now they restored it, and these are the parts that they couldn't use for the aircraft because she was so badly damaged. See, that's off the original one. So they did manufacture some of the parts.
Cool. That's
the engine. That's a Japanese license built.
Oh, so cool.
Right, that's the engine for the Judy. If you want to build a Judy, let me know and I can send you these pictures.
That is
so is it
cool.
like a 60? Is it like a Daimler Benz?
Yeah,
601?
yeah, it's a license built Daimler. Yeah, looks like
No,
one,
that-
doesn't it? But
that
there are
engine
subtle
got
differences. There are subtle differences. So if you do a Judy, I'm happy to send these pictures to you. It's the landing gear. They got a lot of patriotic kamikaze models there. That's me looking like an idiot. The museum shop, guys, like, oh my God, I'm in heaven. Like the books there, there's just lots
One
of
of
books.
each. Did you pick up one of each?
Oh my God, yeah, I had two
buy the
cases
store.
full of books. And when I got to the airport, the lady said, I'm over, and I had to pay an extra $300.
Oh.
But then I remembered looking the system. I asked the lady to look me up in the system, and luckily I had my military ID in there, and they waived the bag fees for military personnel. So I got lucky. Otherwise, I would have had to pay $300. Holy shit!
Lucky bugger.
Yeah, I was lucky. If you want a thing on price, this is the museum, so they're usually higher priced. 72nd Zeros, these are the new ones. They're running for about, say, $14 US.
Harvey?
Yeah.
The Japanese museum prices are not like our museums where they overprice stuff.
Correct. You're probably right.
Everyone,
Yeah.
I went into this one the year before you or two, and it was still great prices compared to the shops.
Yeah, even the bottom end here, they've got a 48.0 here for 15 US. Like really, it's like but it's Tamiya, right? So